Thank you very much indeed. Good afternoon. The first slot after lunch, eh? Good. I'll try and keep you awake if that's possible. Jim Duffy, as John said, from the Awards Network. I'm delighted I'm joined by a number of colleagues who are going to have inputs to this session as well. George Cherry from Youth Scotland, Barry Fisher from the Duke of Edinburgh's Award, and Fiona Kennedy from Sports Leaders UK. Snuck in this morning, and I wasn't aware that he was coming, as Jeff Leask from Young Enterprise Scotland, and I'm sure he will input. I've never known him not to at some point in time in the discussion as well. So we've got a good range of different types of youth awards which offer opportunities for collaboration in different ways within a school setting. Okay, does the technology work? It does. Just for those of you who don't know about us at all, the Awards Network, forum of providers of youth awards, non-formal learning awards in Scotland. We've been around now for 10 years. We celebrated our 10th birthday just before Christmas with a very nice cake. Thank you to whoever produced it. Our purpose and our vision is set out here, and I'm sure there's nothing there that our colleagues in the education sector wouldn't accord with as well. What we want to see is young people's achievement recognised and valued. And recognised and valued alongside formal qualifications. I think it's important that we see the totality of achievement of a young person. Not only do we see it's important, but you all know that it's a requirement of Curriculum for Excellence too. So it's great to have the opportunity to grow the engagement between the youth work sector and the formal education sector for the benefit of young people. I'm delighted also that towards the end of last year, funding was agreed to support Youth Work in Schools collaboration project, which YouthLink Scotland is responsible for. And Marielle Bruce, who's not with us today, has been appointed to lead that and is going to be working with the schools and with the youth work sector to try and help us to improve our collaboration and to highlight examples of good practice. They've also engaged an impact officer as well, who's going to be looking at ways in which we can measure the impact of that type of collaboration at national level and at local level too. So hopefully maybe there'll be an opportunity for Marielle to engage with this group at some point in time in the future as that work moves forward. The Awards Network membership, we've got 27 different organisations in membership and 3 strategic partners. A lot of those organisations up there will be quite familiar to you. All of the main traditional youth work organisations like Scouts, Guides, Boys Brigade, Girls Brigade and so on are all there. Duke of Edinburgh Award. All the cadet services are there as well because they're part of youth provision also. Organisations such as Youth Scotland, who've got a whole range of different award programmes that they're involved with. Skillforce, Sports Leaders UK we'll hear from. John Muir Award, I'm sure most schools, I'd be very surprised if there's any school in Scotland that has not heard of the John Muir Award and is not in some way engaging with that award. And we also have some interesting ones that this was produced in widescreen, but it seems to have squashed itself up a little bit. But the second logo along is actually Archaeology Scotland. And some of you might be wondering what have they got to do with Youth Work Awards, but they actually have got a very good education side to their work. And they have produced a scheme called the Heritage Hero Awards, which is gaining huge traction across schools in Scotland. Having only completed the pilot at the end of 2016 and formally launched the programme in early 2017, over 6,000 awards have been issued in the last year plus from that programme. So there's a lot of interesting things happening in this area and a lot of interesting awards that have got traction within schools, and we'd like to see more of that happening as well. I thought we'd see what young people have to say about all of this stuff, just to help our thinking a little bit. And I'm sure you've all read the Insight SQA Futures report, which came out in October last year. And that was a report which was produced by young people looking at the future of education in Scotland, supported by Young Scot. And these are some of the things that have been said by them. What's important to me, and I highlight at the bottom, is young people are saying schools could partner with youth groups to co-deliver a skills education programme. It's brilliant that young people are actually telling us that. So let's follow that direction and see how we can make that happen. The second bullet point there, young people should be able to present a well-rounded portrait of themselves as an individual to potential employers and universities, reflecting their interests, hobbies, aspirations and volunteering activity, which is precisely what profiling is designed to do. So we are hopefully going to be delivering on what young people see as priorities for the future of education in Scotland. Just thought I'd throw in 4.0 just for the hell of it. This is the Meta Skills Matrix, which we shared with Awards Network members last year. And these are the key skills for the fourth industrial revolution, which SDS and others tell us that we need to be aware of and supporting. And in fact, having shared it with members of the Awards Network, there will be few, if any, Youth Work Awards that are not in some way contributing to the development of these skills in young people. And many of them would be covering the entire range of those skills in one way or another. But let's look at some of the opportunities for collaboration between youth work and schools. And I just identified some of the key ways in which youth work organisations can collaborate with schools. At the top there, we've got school-delivered youth award programmes. And those are programmes which are delivered in school by the school. And they can be things like the John Muir Award, or it can be things like Saltire Award, which a school will use to recognise volunteering activity that young people might be engaging with. It could be Duke of Edinburgh Award, which will be delivered by the school or sometimes by parent groups supported by the school as well. But the schools are pretty much in control of the delivery of the programme itself. The second one is youth organisation in school delivery, and that's where a school will bring in a youth organisation to deliver a programme for them, and the school will not have much involvement with the programme delivery itself. It's simply buying in a service. And organisations like Skillforce have been providing programmes within schools, growing the involvement in schools in Scotland over recent years. And there will be other examples. Prince's Trust in some cases brings staff into schools to deliver programmes as well. So those are programmes where the school might see a need and an opportunity, but is not in a position to deliver themselves, so they buy in capacity from elsewhere. The third is what I've put up as a school managed with a youth work partner. And that'll be awards, principally accredited awards, where the school buys into a programme, delivers the programme, but the responsibility for, as the operating authority, lies outside of the school. An example of that would be the Youth Scotland's Dynamic Youth or Youth Achievement Awards, which are SQA customised awards delivered in the school, but the operating authority, in effect, is Youth Scotland, which is responsible for a lot of the administration behind the scenes on that. And again, there are many different examples. Sports Leaders UK would be another example, and we'll hear about that shortly too. There's the opportunity to engage youth workers directly in schools. There are many examples of that across the country where youth workers are actually employed, based in the school, and are involved in a range of activities. There's a perception in some places that when that happens, it's primarily about problem solving rather than responding to opportunities or developing opportunities. and that's something we might want to think about, is bringing youth workers into the school. Is that only to deal with a certain cohort of pupils where you think are more challenging in the mainstream? In some cases that is the circumstance we find, but in many areas what we find is that by youth workers engaging and using youth work methodology, we're actually switching young people back onto learning and encouraging them through that back into mainstream learning as well. So there are different models. I put down at the end here capturing external youth award achievement through profiling, because that's hugely important as well. Young people spend a lot more time outside of school than they do inside of school, and they engage in a vast range of activities outside of school. But if the school is responsible for capturing the total achievements of young people, they need to be aware of what young people are doing outside. And not only do they need to be aware of that, but they need to create the space and the opportunity and the environment for young people to feel comfortable to share with the school what they're doing outside school. And then an opportunity for the school to celebrate with those young people their achievements, because they're all part of the learning, they're all part of the picture that young people are going to present of themselves in the future in terms of their academic qualifications, their skills and achievements. So it's important not to ignore that bit. And too often we've seen examples of when we talk about youth work and schools, we actually mean youth work in schools. And if we only talk about youth work in schools, we're missing out on a huge area of activity. Young people themselves have actually said they want their extracurricular activities to be better recognised and celebrated. So again, having had a very successful year of young people where we celebrated the achievements of young people and celebrated the possibilities through young people, let's recognise the outcomes from what they're doing. So, what are the challenges though in all of that? It's great to talk about the opportunities, but there are lots of challenges. One of the first challenges is a lack of awareness of what's out there. Many schools say, well, we might be interested in getting involved, but we haven't a clue how to start or what awards are available. And of course I will promote to you Amazing Things, and I'm sure you've all got copies of Amazing Things, and if you haven't, talk to me afterwards and I'll give you some copies that I have with me. Amazing Things is the director of Youth Awards in Scotland. And if you go to the Awards Network website, there's more information there, because of course Amazing Things was printed in September 2017, and we've had some additional organisations join the Awards Network and some additional awards that have been recognised since that time as well. So hopefully our website can keep you up to date on that. And in Amazing Things, we have a table at the back of it which highlights where there is external recognition for awards. And a growing number of awards are now achieving accreditation. That's not to diminish the awards that don't have accreditation, because many of those awards, like the Duke of Edinburgh Award that we will hear about, don't need the accreditation because they have the status and the currency amongst the population at large, and employers in particular, and parents too. The achievement of that award is recognised as very important and very valuable to a young person without it necessarily being levelled on SCQF. But nevertheless, there is a growing a number of awards that do lead to accredited awards, to accreditation. And interestingly, we're talking at our table about PEF being a driver for greater engagement with awards. Certainly we're seeing it in the primary school sector, where there is a growing interest in engaging with award programmes. And George will talk to us about the High Five Award, which is the first accredited award targeted at primary schools. So I don't want to steal his thunder on that. But the Awards Network has a role to play in trying to grow awareness of award opportunities that schools might be able to harness. Working with our colleagues in YouthLink Scotland, who are part of our network anyway, on the Youth Work in Schools collaboration project, hopefully we'll be able to get some positive messaging out to more schools as well. We have an Awards Aware scheme, which be delighted if more schools signed up to that, which is not tricky, doesn't cost you anything, but it's just your school making a statement that we are aware of youth awards, we value them, and looking at aspects of their practice to see the extent to which they support, encourage, recognise and celebrate youth awards. So I'd encourage you to become more awards aware and tell more people about it, because we want to spread the message more widely. There are issues sometimes of perceptions and worth and the place of youth awards. And again, we had discussion at our table earlier about whether youth awards are seen as something that is available for the less academically minded pupils in school, and indeed whether wider achievement is seen as something which is focused on the less academically able. Interestingly enough, when we get to the high achievers academically, what are they focusing on when they want to get to university? Their personal statements. And they want to bulk out those personal statements by telling everybody about the fantastic achievements that they've had through lots of non-formal learning activity, whether it be through Scouts, Guides, Duke of Edinburgh Award, other volunteering activity they might be doing. They see that as hugely important. So youth awards and the recognition that they have and the skills that they help to develop are not something which are just for non-achievers, they're for all young people. And we need to ensure that we have that message there, that it's not compartmentalised within a school, but opportunities are available for youth awards to be part of the learner journey for all young people. There are issues of management capacity and training. I know lots of the constraints that exist within school. Now, first of all, it's really important to have a good wider achievement champion, and that person or a wider achievement team who can champion the opportunities that are available amongst their colleagues first and foremost, to make sure that the whole school team is on board, and then also with young people to make sure that they know what's possible and they have the opportunity to engage. But there are some capacity issues to take on responsibility for some of the award programs delivered by the school requires the school to free up some staff time for training. And that's an issue that we maybe need to look at further, because that has implications for staffing time within the school as well. So that's a challenge that the youth work sector needs to understand, as well as the school sector being able to cope with. Timetable and rigidities. I was with an organisation last week working with a school, and they said, well, we've got 2 hours a week to run our programme. We initially were looking at doing a Youth Achievement Award, but within the time constraint, because that award requires a minimum of 60 hours involvement, over a term we could actually, we couldn't give that time, we couldn't get that time from the school. So we looked at alternatives. We're now doing the Dynamic Youth Award, which can be done in much less time. But there are still constraints of timetable for that as well, especially when you throw in midterm breaks and stuff, which happen on the days when you've normally allocated for the wider achievement programme to happen. Timetabling is an issue, and we need to have discussion between partners or prospective partners about how we can properly tackle that. And again, more understanding is required within the youth work sector as to what those rigidities are within the school, and equally the school sector needs to understand what are the minimum requirements to be able to deliver successfully youth award programs within the school as well. Budgetary constraints, of course, we all suffer from that. And as I said earlier, PEF seems to have been a driver for a lot of innovation. We're having discussions around youth awards and schools in a way now that we wouldn't have had 5 years ago. And that's really positive. It would be terrible if we actually lost the momentum on that, if PEF funding disappeared and people say, well, let's go back to normal. I don't think we can go back, we can only go forward. We're harnessing youth awards because we see that they have got huge potential to benefit young people, and we need to build on that. There are issues then also with, going back to the previous slide when I talked about recognising what young people are doing outside of school. A lot of the outside school activity is volunteer-led. And a lot of those volunteers have got jobs and are therefore not able to engage with the school during the school day. So there needs to be ways in which we can communicate. And interestingly, just looking at the Sanderson approach to profiling, where they've got employers involved and understanding their profiling system, the employers in their own time can recognise how young people are developing and advancing and record that. In the same way, we could be looking at how we communicate with volunteer youth workers to help them to understand that they can contribute to developing records of achievement for young people, the profiling record that we want to have. We heard about input from scout leaders in your case, and guides here with one pupil in this school. There needs to be better communication. That's what it comes down to in many cases. But I'm going to now look at an example from 3 of our organisations who will tell you a little bit about some of the positives and some of the challenges that they've faced in trying to engage with the school sector. And first